back to the Collider studio. I'm Maggie Levitt, and I'm here with one of my favorite people, Neil Newbon.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for asking. It's been really nice to be back.
Thank you. How has the con been going for you so far? Last day?
Yeah, it's been delightful, actually. I've had a lot of fun. It's a little harder to move around conventions these days, which I'm very grateful for in a way. But yeah, I do miss walking the floor a bit. But apart from that, it's been amazing to meet so many wonderful people, and I've had a great time.
You need to start doing what some of the folks do when they come in costume so they can stealthily
I've
lurk
heard that,
around.
yeah.
Yes.
I might cosplay as Heisenberg one day, just not tell anybody.
Nice. I know I've heard
Heavily made up.
I've heard Charlie Cox shows up sometimes as Daredevil to hide.
That's really fun.
Hey, it works. So jumping right in, this is
Yeah.
a question I don't think I've actually had the chance to ask you yet,
Sure.
which is about your audition process for Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
I've heard that, you figured out pretty quickly on that it was something D&D related,
Yeah.
but I'm curious if that affected how your audition process went for sending in your self-tapes.
So I'm very lucky that when I was a younger actor, I made a lot of mistakes, especially in auditions. So I learned a lot. That's what wisdom is knowing what doesn't work. So I got very excited. My company was doing a co-production with Square Enix and Schlock to do the performance capture for Final Fantasy 16. So we were in Hungary at the time, doing 5 months of shooting, which was amazing. And during that time, I heard about this audition that was coming out. It was a high fantasy RPG. I thought, okay, well, that's definitely my cup of tea. I managed to get an audition. They sent me the materials. Josh Whedon at Pit Stop Productions, who's like one of the lead directors there, he and I had already worked on the DLC, the extra DLC for Resident Evil 3, which I believe is called, I can't remember what it's called now. Oh, anyway, it was the extra inverse game or something like that. So he had asked me in as well. And I saw all the pictures and of the characters of the different races you could go up for. You were supposed to pick 3. I ended up doing 10. I was just trying my luck. And all of the pictures and descriptions were very, very clearly D&D, like Devilkin or something like that, for Tiefling. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting because it's been about 25 years since BG 1 and 2 or Icewind Dale. So I was like, well, it's going to be one of those two. So I got very excited. The problem with excitement is that you can then start getting into the narrative of, oh, I have to be really good now, or I really want this really badly. So the craft work and experience in industry really helps you maintain that professionalism going, yes, I really want it, but it's going to calm down and just focus on the moment and the job at hand. So I just focused on the auditions, went, okay, I'm just going to do a really good job with my craft, and whatever happens, happens. I'll play a goblin holding a pint of beer, I don't care. So that's it really, and I maintain that. So no matter how exciting a project is, you have to treat it, you have to step back and go, right, I'm a professional first and a fanboy second. And just go, okay, well, how do I see the character? What am I going to bring to this? And it was my elf audition, high elf audition, that apparently sat very closely to where Astarion, they wanted Astarion to be, or at least they liked the idea of it. And so, after 10 different tapes, that was the one that got me in.
Did you find that high elf audition helped you to start building the building blocks for Astarion?
Yeah, without thinking too much about, I didn't know the character at all. So then they came back, and originally he was a tiefling. Swen has gone on record in saying this, because I remember the very first session we did, there was a grayed out real-time model of the character, and he was a tiefling. So I then thought, oh, well, I'm not sure how to do that because I haven't done a tiefling before. It's a very different kind of vibe. So it was an interesting kind of first demo, and then very quickly it was changed to high elf because it makes more sense. And also I think Karlak's character came forward at that point. So yeah, we didn't really change a huge amount of the demo to the actual work. A nice thing that happened though was that we started very tight with the character, which kind of works because he doesn't know who you are and doesn't trust you. And then bit by bit, as I got to know the character better and started exploring the character with a lot of methodology, he started opening up. And actually in the game, it feels like he's getting to know you, therefore he's relaxing with you and letting his guard down a little bit. So it was a happy accident, which is great.
I love that. Now I'm going to think about Tiefling Astarion more.
Yeah, that would
I'm
be
sure
weird.
there's a mod. Now that the mods are everywhere, I'm sure there's a mod for Astarion.
Maybe, I don't know, man.
So one of the things I'm really obsessed with lately is the animated shorts that Larian
so
has
good.
been putting out. So what is that process like for you? Do you get to come back in the booth? Is it part of your original contract? Or?
No, I can't talk about the contracts, but it was definitely a thing that came after the whole game stuff, without going into contracts and things like that. But it was really fun. I mean, we were super excited when the first idea came about. And we just thought, that's genius. It's amazing. It's going to be great. The nice thing is because it's animation and it also has a certain tonality to it, we were allowed to go a lot further than we ever would do in the game to sort of heighten up the characteristics of each character, because that works better in animation anyway. It was just a hoot. It was just like, we get to do that. And then, of course, getting it to do it successively and a number of times, it was just joyous. It was really fun.
It's so great to have that like chance to see the characters in different situations.
And see the life beyond. Yeah, I hope they do more of it. I'd really be up for animation, and doing an animated version of BG would be awesome.
I think fans would love that as well.
Yeah, the response has been amazing. That's why I think they also kept on doing it, because they realized people really got it and really loved it, and it was a great companion piece to the actual game without being that serious, you know?
Exactly. And I know you've recently talked about, you're confirmed that you're in Greedfall 3 or 2. Yeah. 2? Yes. Baldur's Gate 3, Greedfall 2.
It gets really confusing after numbers.
Too many Roman numerals. But what can you talk about that game? I know you can't say much.
Not much.
But what can you tease? Is it just voice performance, or did you come in for mocap?
I actually don't even know what I'm allowed to talk about, so I have to be very careful with that. I'm sorry. I'm in the process with Greedfall 2. I really like working with the studio. It's really fun. I'm having a lot of fun with the two very different characters I'm playing. But I've been told not to talk about it. So I'm afraid I can't talk about anything.
The trailer looked really cool.
The trailer looked very cool. Yeah. And no, it's really difficult because they've been very adamant about not talking about it. I'm really sorry.
So we're just really excited for it.
I'm excited.
It's not a property I'm familiar with, so I'm like very excited to kind of see how 2 is and kind of go back and play 1, because it looks very cool.
I think it's had a very good reaction. The first one did very well, and I think that's the point. They wanted to expand the game. I think, from my understanding, this is like a prequel to the original game. I believe. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it happens before the game. I think that's been mentioned. Yeah.
Something that I think is really cool with conventions is you get to see people bringing your characters to life. You have Astarians, Heisenbergs. Are there any, conventions that you've been to that somebody has dressed up as a character that you were completely not expecting them to dress up from your catalog of characters?
No, not really. I think
nobody's come as a fish in a fishbowl yet.
Not yet, but I would love to see that. There'll be a lot of craftiness. People would have to really make the bowl, and yeah, that would be a lot of work. I would love to see that. That would be amazing. I've definitely had a lot of Gavin Reeds, Kamskis, things like that. I'm very lucky as a character to have a very wide range of different characters, which is cool. But yeah, the fish in the tank, I would love to see that. So
any Planet of the Apes yet?
Huh?
I said any Planet of the Apes characters yet?
No, not yet. No, but that's very involved.
It is.
Especially because it's arm extension work as well. Again, I would love to see things like that. That would be great. I just love the creativity of people. I think conventions are so wonderful because people get to express themselves in a way that, certainly in the past, was frowned upon. Was people, especially a lot of. I'm a card-carrying geek, so I can say the word geek. It's my word. Us geeks, I think, were ridiculed for a long time for being different and having not really caring about popular opinions and all that kind of stuff. So conventions are always a really nice, safe space for people to come and play, and I really like that a lot. I like seeing people express themselves and dress up in really wild, crazy gear that they would never do in real life, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really nice to see them. But yeah, people bring the fish. Hashtag bring the fish.
Did you ever get to go to conventions before you were attending conventions as talent? Yeah, same.
Yeah, I did. I once went up to a guy, but just before Resident Evil really, we became very well known for Resident Evil. It was after the pandemic, obviously, after the beginning of the pandemic. The first convention I went back to, I hadn't done a convention for a while, so people didn't really know my face that well still, which is good. That's changed. But I went up to a guy who's in full Heisenberg gear and really nice, great cosplay, kid. Well, you have them boulder punching Wadsits, no? And he went, oh, wow, that was really good. I went, oh, cheers, mate. He's like, oh, you did that really well, thanks. It just wandered off. I was like, oh.
Now if he's watching that, he'll know.
Yeah, it was very funny, yeah.
I love that.
I like messing with people a little bit.
It is great. It is great. Something I love talking about with actors is like that inciting moment where you realize that you wanted to get into acting. And I'm curious if there was ever a performance or a theater thing that you've seen that you saw somebody on stage and you're like, I want to be that person.
I was 8. And this is going to sound strange. I was excited by Brian Blessed, which is a weird statement to make, I realize. But Brian Blessed played, can you never remember the name of the cat? It was the old trampy vagabond cat.
In Cats.
In
Yes.
Cats. In Cats. I can't remember the name of it. He's like the alley cat, the street cat, right? And he's old and he's massive and big and he's covered in like furs and stuff. And he comes on towards the interval, I believe. And he sort of sings his song or does his thing, whatever happens. And then he just sits down. And Brian Blessed, this is the original version of Cats in London. Because I'm old. And he used to sit and wait for all the kids, invite the kids to come and talk to him. So I went down to the front. I was like the first kid. And then I started letting all the other kids, I don't know, it was weird, let all the other kids in front of me. My mum always brought me up to be quite polite. But my mum was sitting there going, what is he doing? Like, he's running out of time. You know. So then all the kids went past and I was the very last kid, having been the first kid. And then I went up and I talked to him. I can't remember what I said. He said something like, oh, you're a very polite young man and all that kind of stuff. You know, and it was just like, yeah, I just wanted to talk to him. Mum asked me when I came back, I said, why on earth did you, nice, thank you, generous, but you shouldn't have done that. You should have just talked to him. It was like, I wanted it to just be him and I on the stage. And that was the first moment that it was something about theatre that just hooked me. And then I got into school plays. I was like one of the few kids that actually did school plays. And then I got into a thing called Central Television Workshop. And that was my first taste of a semi-professional gig that I did. And then I was hooked. I went to National Youth Theatre after that. Then I started training, I started working. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And as we wrap up, I would love to know more about Performance Captured. What made you want to start your own company and become a mentor to other actors?
Sure. So our Performance Captured Limited has got two parts to it. One is a production company. We do production services. We also... I'm a director as well. I'm also a producer. So we run shoots for Performance Capture for games, AAAs, AAs and indies. The other side of it is a bunch of workshops that we do, which are non-profit. So we run them at cost value because my ethos is that I had a career before Performance Capture, which got to a point which wasn't doing great. But I always had people champion me, take risks on me, give me an opportunity. And I think it would be remiss of any artist or anybody in any kind of vocational work, not just a job, because that's also a thing, but something that is meaningful to them in a fulfillment kind of way, to not pass on that kind of respect and generosity and care and love to the next generations of artists. It doesn't stop you working. I mean, I've been up against people that I've mentored who got the job ahead of me. That's great because it means that they're flying, they get the opportunities that I had. Without Brian Mitchell, without Audio Motion, without Stacey Boiselle, without Imaginarium, without Quantic Dream, without Capcom Square, all these kind of people, Steve Kniebley, all these amazing people that have given me opportunities, I would not have a career. So if I get to do that now, especially knowing a lot about the industry and feeling very competent in my craft, to help other people lift up, then I have to do that. I also enjoyed it. I really like doing it.
That raising up the people, the next generation. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us in the Collider studio today, Neil.
Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
See you.